Welcome to there, my name's Lave, and this week I watched Independence Day Resurgence. So this is the sequel to 1996's Independence Day, which was also directed by Roland Emmerich. He was responsible for Godzilla, The Day After Tomorrow, and 2012. And you could say that he's the master of disaster films. It's probably more accurate to say the maker of disaster films. Yeah, some of them aren't very good. The problem is with his disaster films, although they're filled with very good special effects and CGI, the characters and the writing is always very formulaic. And unfortunately, Independence Day Resurgence is exactly the same. It didn't offer anything new and I was just extremely bored. So the film is set 20 years after the events of the first film. The world has rebuilt itself. We've used the alien technology and fused it with our own. We've got a moon base. They also mentioned that we've got a base on one of Saturn's moons. I would have liked to have seen more of that, but anyway. But they've also upgraded the weapon systems in the event that the aliens ever decide to come back, which of course they do, so Jeff Goldblum has to figure out a way of beating them, exactly as you'd expect, following the formula to a T. Now there are some little positives to take from it. It's nice to see returning characters and cast members. Who doesn't like Jeff Goldblum? Judd Hirsch is also back as his dad, but he's got a side story which I didn't buy into at all. Could have been cut from the film. And Bill Pullman is back, but now he's the former president, and let's be honest, he's just grateful for the check. Now there are some other returning characters. Will Smith's kid Dylan is back, but played by a different actor. The president's daughter is also back, and she's friends with him, but she's also dating Liam Hemsworth's character, Jake. Didn't care for them whatsoever. Jake and Dylan do have their differences which they've got to resolve in order to save the day, but I just didn't care. Now I don't want to be too harsh on Jessie T. Usher because I don't think he's been given much to work with, but the lines he has been given, although cheesy, he delivers really badly. Get ready for a close encounter, bitch! Now there are some supporting characters thrown into the mix as well, but they all seem to be kind of sidekicks and comic relief, and seriously, there's about 3 or 4 of them. The only interesting new character is an African warlord called Mbutu, and he does get paired up with one of the sidekicks. There's a real throwaway comment where they talk about Mbutu and his people fighting the aliens hand to hand in the events between the first and this film. He's kind of like a PG rated version of one of the characters from District 9, and I would have liked to have seen what they were talking about, but you don't get to see what they were talking about. The only other slight positive thing that I can say is that there are some references to other films, which I can't really tell you about because it might spoil it, but I think it does reference aliens, and I think it also references The Day the Earth Stood Still, in the same kind of way that the first one kind of references War of the Worlds, in that at the end they all die of a virus, and in that one it was a computer virus, but there is a parallel there, if you know what I mean, but I don't want to spoil it. I also like the fact that you actually get to see the aliens fighting and shooting. The concept of the armour and them being in the armour is there, and it's done really well in the CGI. You could see that they were limited with the practical effects back in Independence Day. Now when I think back to 1996 when I first saw Independence Day, I was 13 and I'll admit I absolutely loved it. Now that I'm older I can see that it hasn't really held up and the formula is still there, but it does have some redeeming qualities. Firstly, you had Will Smith in his breakout film role, which really made him a star. Liam Hemsworth and Jessie Usher just don't have half of his charisma. I actually like the sense of family that the film had, and the bit when the First Lady dies, I thought that was a really emotional scene. I thought they did it really well. And then you've got the president's speech as well. That is a brilliant speech. Come on. Good morning. I'm about to deliver the best speech ever. There is a moment in this where you think he's gonna deliver another amazing speech, but then it doesn't really get there. In the end, it falls to William Fichtner's character, and he has to deliver a speech over the radio, and it doesn't come anywhere near it. Hey everybody, the aliens are back. Do what you did last time. So what I'm trying to say is that this film is exactly like Independence Day, just without any of those redeeming qualities. So that's my thoughts on Independence Day Resurgence, and pause the video now if you want to take a closer look at my enjoyment tracker. I was really hoping that this film was going to surprise me, but unfortunately it didn't. Again, it's Roland Emmerich following his formula. I do wonder what 13-year-old kids will think of it, considering they probably haven't seen the original, so they haven't got that attachment to the original characters. If you're about my age and you're thinking about going to the cinema this weekend for a trip down nostalgia lane, I can't believe I'm going to say this, but I'd actually recommend going and seeing Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Anyway, thanks very much for watching. If you liked the video, like it. If you didn't like it, dislike it. Either way, tell me in the comments.
Ah, David, I gotta call my mother. I gotta call my lawyer. I forget about my lawyer.
Subscribe.